Alright, what is up everybody? It is your friend, The Last Hodler, and today in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this website, which is going to be great for your web development portfolio. On this website, you come to the website and it tells you where you're making the request from and what the weather is like at that location. So it automatically detects where you're making the request, be it from Amsterdam or Paris or wherever in the world that you are, and then it hooks up using a weather API and finds out what the temperature is, the weather description, what temperature it feels like, the wind speed, the humidity, and the UV index right now. And so stay tuned and put this on your web development portfolio. If you don't have time to follow along with the video and type out all the code yourself, you can go over to my website and you can purchase this portfolio. But if you don't want to do that, and if you do have the time, you can get it absolutely for free. And if you do want to do that for free, consider checking out my buymeacoffee.com link in the description. That would mean a lot to me. But without further ado, let's get on with the video and get you the job that you want. So let's make this thing together. Let's go, let's get started, let's go. What we're doing today is we're doing something called the geolocation and weather automatic figure outer API implementation, and I'll leave a link in the description so that you can see the full website. And if you follow along with me and do the code with me, you'll be able to get all this stuff absolutely for free. But if you don't have time to do that, you can go to my website and you can buy an installation guide for this thing. You don't have to write it all from scratch. But if you do you have the time and you don't want to pay for it, then just follow along with me and we'll do it together. But if you're going to use this thing, consider going to my Buy Me a Coffee page and maybe buy me a coffee if this is useful for you. But anyway, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a website, and that website is going to be like an interactive web development portfolio. It's going to be a project for your portfolio, and on that project someone's going to come to your website and then it's going to automatically detect where that person is from, and then it's going to tell them what the weather at their location is. So it demonstrates a good knowledge of RESTful APIs, a good knowledge of full stack web development. It's going to have a front end to it. It's obviously going to have a back end powering all of that stuff. So it's going to be like a pretty nice, well-rounded project to show all of these different elements of web development that you're familiar with and that you understand. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I want you to have a look at and that we're going to be looking at are two different APIs that we're going to be using to power this whole thing. The first one is called IPStack, and I have this right now on my machine, ipstack.com. So you're going to need to make an account there and get an API key there. That's the first one. That's going to be the one that we're using to find out the IP address, to find out the geolocation of whoever's reached our website and having a look at it. So we're going to use their geolocation to figure out then with the second API, which is a weather API, what the weather is where they are. So when someone accesses our website, our web server can kind of tell what their IP address is. And so with the first API, it's going to be plugging their IP address into that, making a request to that API and figuring out where they're from. So they might be from Amsterdam or Paris or something like that. And then we're going to be plugging that into the weather API, and it's going to say it's partly cloudy, 20 degrees in Paris right now. So that's going to be the kind of the full scope of what we're doing today. So the first thing we need to do is we need to actually deploy a web server that we can SSH into, connect remotely to, and start writing our code, install PHP onto, and then have full control over that and create our website from scratch. So I'm going to be using Vultr for this. You can use something like AWS or Vultr, whichever provider you like. There are plenty out there. I like Vultr because it's really easy to spin up a new server in just a few minutes. And so I'm here on Vultr now. I've logged into my account, and I'm going to be starting to spin up a server. So I'm going to click the cloud computer, and then I'm going to put it in Sydney because I'm from Australia, so then it will be fast and close to me. And then I'm going to use Ubuntu 16, but you could use Ubuntu 18 or Ubuntu 20, whichever you prefer. And I'm just going to get the cheapest one as well, because this isn't going to be a very computationally expensive project, so we don't need to spend a lot of money on computing power here. I'm just going to get the cheapest $5 a month server. So after we get to there, let's give this thing a name. Let's call it Geolocation Automatic Weather. You can call it whatever you like. And once we've done that, we can click deploy, and it's going to deploy that server in the cloud, and then we'll have our own little virtual server that we can start playing with, and that will be on the cloud, publicly accessible to anybody who knows where it is via this raw IP address that we're going to have here. But it's going to take a couple moments just to install, and once it's done that, then we can get started with it. So I'm just going to click into that. Maybe it's done now. Okay, cool. So we have this raw IP address here. That's going to be where we connect to. both via SSH on port 22, and we're going to write our code and all that kind of thing, but also on port 80, which is the TCP port, the internet port that people are going to access your website through the browser. So this is like the IP address location of your website. And then we're going to be logging in using root as our username by default, and then our password. This is our password here. So I'm just going to add to WinSCP, which is going to be my remote login tool. I'm going to add a new thing to it, a new location to log into. And I'm going to start by putting in the IP address into the host name, and then the username, as I said just moments ago, it's root, and then the password here, I'm going to plug that one in as well. And as you can see, we're connecting via port number 22 because we're doing SSH as our connection method. So let's save that, and we'll just save the password, because why not? And then we'll just log straight into that and start installing PHP. That's the first thing we're going to do, and that's going to be the language that we're using to power this whole thing. So we have to log into our server here, and let's see how our server is going with installing. Okay, cool, so it's installed now. So let's start by logging in, and then we'll type in the password. V2 YT. Okay, cool. How did I go? Oh, I didn't get that right. I wonder what I got wrong. So S capital N dot 18 FJEW J6 B2 B capital Y capital T. Okay, cool, it worked that time. So now we are in, we can see that we are in our web server. But I'm not going to be doing anything else in here apart from installing some dependencies. So maybe I should install a GUI first, and then we can just copy paste those things in. No, we won't do that, we'll just do it from here. So we'll type in Ubuntu install PHP Ubuntu, and then we'll just type everything in manually. And we're using Ubuntu 16 as well, so we might as well type that in too. So DigitalOcean, as far as my experience has been, has the best installation steps for installing PHP. There are the fewest commands and the fewest things have gone wrong in my experience. So the first thing we want to do is we want to say sudo apt-get update, so just so that we know we're up to date with everything. And that should just take a few moments. Let's make that a bit bigger. And then the second thing we're going to be doing is sudo apt-get install Apache 2. So what Apache 2 is some basically like a web server piece of software that converts your machine in the cloud into a web server so that people can access it using TCP and Internet Protocol and all of the standard protocols that run the internet. So that's what Apache does. So once we've installed Apache, we're going to immediately be able to connect to our web server via a browser. That's the cool thing about Apache. Once you've installed it, it's all automatic from there. So let's just get that IP address, and then I'll show you once that's installed just how easy it is to access that. So how are we going here? Scroll down. All right, cool. So it looks like we're done. I'm going to put that on that side and that on that side. So now if I just go to that IP address and I click enter, you can see that we have connected and we have been served the default Apache 2 Ubuntu page. But we're not going to be using that. Oh, and we've SSH there with WinSCP, so let's click yes to that. And now we're connected straight into our web server. Let's see here, are we in there? Cool, so let's go into our web root, which is var www.html by default with Apache. And this index.html you see here, if I open this one in Sublime, this is this page. This is the code for this page. So we actually don't care about that anymore. And when Apache starts, by default, it's going to look into this directory and it's going to look for an index.html page, and then it's going to serve that. So whatever that index.html page is, it's going to serve that. So we're going to get rid of this index.html page. We don't need this anymore. And then we're going to find a nicer kind of front-end template that we can start working from. So let's just type in bootstrap simple template. And we're just going to use the most simple free bootstrap template that we can find. Let's use, where is it? I downloaded it before. This one. It's called the starter template. And I'll leave this link down in the description as well, so you can just quickly find that. But I've downloaded that now. And then here it is in my downloads folder. And I'm just going to copy paste all that stuff into the web root so that our web root can have this template and not that Apache default page. So give that a moment and then we'll start installing PHP. Okay, that's just about done. So now if we do Control F5, and that's a hard refresh on our browser, you can see that we have that template loaded right in. So actually, let's just do a couple things to make it clear what we're doing. So let's just change the title tag. This is that tag up in the browser that you can see up here. Let's change that to say weather plus geolocation API project, resume project, let's say. Okay, project. Cool, and instead of start bootstrap, we'll get it to say the weather at your location. All right, cool. So let's see what it says now. The weather at your location. And then down here, say, actually, that'll be good for now. Now let's start installing PHP. So let's find some build steps on PHP. Let's go down, 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 down. That's the page we just saw before. And now we've got to start installing PHP. We don't need MySQL this time because we're not going to be doing any database stuff. But maybe in the future we might add a login system to this, or maybe we can add like a search history so that people can see again what they've been searching, and you can demonstrate that you know a bit about MySQL. But for now, and if you want to do that, let me know in the comments and maybe we'll go ahead and do that. But for now, let's just stick with PHP and stick with what we're doing. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go sudo apt get install. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, because I'm going to be doing all kinds of project tutorials just like this, and you'll probably want to use some of them for your resume if you don't have like a very verbose portfolio or anything like that. There's going to be some really good ones, so make sure you subscribe and follow along with those because they're going to be really good. So anyway, let's get back to installing these dependencies. So PHP lib apache 2 mod PHP and PHP encrypt, and we don't need PHP MySQL. And then after we've installed this one, we're just going to probably need to install PHP Curl, because PHP Curl is what we're going to be using to make contact with the API and get the information from the API that we're going to be using to show the user what the weather is at their location, and to also show them that we figured out where they've come from. So now that we've done that, I think the way to do that is to just simply say apt install PHP curl. I think that's what it is. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, cool. So now we can go back into our index.html file. We can rename that to index.php, and then we can put a little bit of PHP code into that, and we can test if PHP worked. So the first thing we need to do is we need to open up our PHP tags just like that. And let's type something in like echo PHP has installed correctly. Like that. And then after that, we don't need to load anything else. We'll just exit just to make sure that everything's working as expected. Okay, cool. So that's run some PHP code now, so we know for sure that PHP has corrected successfully. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put in some debugging errors, just in case we write some code that doesn't work, we can see exactly what's going wrong. So just Google PHP show errors. Here we go. That's right, this is the one we want. Cool. So now that we've got that, we can start trying to hook up with this API. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get the IP address of whoever has contacted our website or requested our website. So that's the first thing to do. Get user IP address PHP. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. So let's just make a function. And the function will be called get IP. I'll copy this, put that in there, and then at the very end we'll just return that IP. So now whenever we call this get IP function, and we call it something like this, like user IP equals get IP, it's going to come into this function, do all this stuff, set the IP, and then when it returns the IP, that just means that the that this value is going to be in this variable because this variable equals that function. So we're returning this into that. Okay. So now we can say echo user IP, and then we'll just exit after that, just so that we can have a look at if that worked. Cool, so my IP is 49.109.49.31. So that looks like it worked as expected. So that's fine. So let's get rid of that now. We know that that's working okay. Now we can get into calling this API and getting some information about the user who has accessed this website of ours. So what we need to do is we need to do a curl to this website, get some information from it. So let's have a look at how to do a PHP curl request. Let's see here, what have we got here? No, I don't want to use that one. Let's go to the PHP manual and see how curl works. Oh, here we go, here's a good example. Let's take this one. So we're going to do two different API requests. We're going to do an API request to the IP stack API, which is going to take in an IP address and give us some information about where that IP address is and who it belongs to. And then we're going to have another API request, which is using this weather stack API. So from the first one, we're going to get the city information about our user, and we're going to plug that into the weather stack API and figure out what the weather is at that city. So the first function, the reason I said that is we're going to have two functions for that. So the first function is going to be query IP stack API. How about we call it that? Let's not put anything in there yet. And then the second one will be function query weather API. Let's just call that one IP API. Okay. So the different APIs have two different ways that you query them. The first one takes in the API after the web address, the URI, and then the second one takes it's the API endpoint, weatherstack.com/current, and then you put in the access key, and then you put in which demographic you want the weather for. So it's a little bit different. So we're just going to be separating that into two different functions. So we've also got two different API keys. We've got this API key and we've got that API key. That's my that's my IP stack API key, and this is my weather stack API key. So two API keys for two different things. So now that we've got all that set up, let's get these two curl requests, put them in the body of these two different functions. Put one in there as well. Cool. So let's do the IP API first. So this is going to be our endpoint. So our endpoint is going to be ipstack.com, like that, / and then our IP address. So we need to pass in an IP address to here so that we can use that in our endpoint call. And then the next thing is we're going to need to put our access key, otherwise known as an API key, which I can find here. So let's copy paste that one in. Great. Excuse me. All right, so that's the first one. So then we're going to do that curl request and save it into a variable called output. And then we're going to close that connection, but what we need to do after that is we need to return that variable output so that we can then start using it for stuff. We can start doing things with it and having a look at what happened. So we have our user API variable. Now let's actually call the API like that. So our IP API output, let's call that variable that equals this. We need to have $$ there. And the IP address that's going in is this user IP variable. And then let's just echo what we got. Let's just have a look directly at what we got, and then we can start manipulating it. And then put no, actually we don't even need one of them, so we can just do that, and we'll just say exit after that. And then we'll have a look at what we did. Okay, so call to undefined function curl init. Okay, so we need to install one more dependency on our PHP server, and then that will be correct. So actually, we've already installed PHP curl, so we just need to restart our Apache server, and then when it reloads, it should also load with it that library. So now we've restarted that, we should have this working as expected. Okay, cool. So now we've queried the API, and we've got a bunch of information about me, the user, who has accessed my website, and my information's gone off to the API and it's giving me back some stuff. So what we've got here is that the continent I'm from is Oceania, because I'm Australian. Country name is Australia. The region is, let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. The region code is Victoria, sorry, Vic is for Victoria. Region name is Victoria, and my city is Balwyn North. Okay, cool. So now we know where I'm from. We can start using that information to plug into the next API, and then we can know what the weather is, and that will be pretty much our app complete. We'll do a little bit of styling on the front end to make it look presentable, but that will be pretty much it. So once we've got this output variable here, we want to actually start parsing it into something that's like readable, something that we can pluck little bits and pieces out of and plug that in. So right now here, we have the output as JSON. Is JavaScript serialized object notation, right? It's language that the computer understands. But we need to convert that into an object, and then we can start looking at individual components of that object and get something back out from it. So this variable right now is in this JSON format, but we can say our IP API object equals JSON decode this stuff, and then we can actually start looking at individual components of this. So if we look here, we have the start of our object, and then we can go directly to country code like this. So I can say something like $country code, zoom in on that a little bit so we can see what we're doing. $country code equals IP API object, and then arrow to, was it country code? Yes, country code. So now, let's get rid of this just for now. I can say on the screen, the country code of the requesting user is $country code. So now when I refresh this, what have we done here? I think we must have missed a semicolon or something. Let's see here. Zoom out a little bit. Here we go. Need a semicolon there. Cool. The country code of the requesting user is AU. AU is for Australia. Okay, so now we can start echoing stuff out again. So actually, we don't really need country code. How about we do country name? We do country name, and we should also probably do the city, because we're going to need that for the next API. So that would just be city. All right, so we've got country name, and we're going to have city next. Let's call that city, and call that city as well. And then let's echo this out. And add a little new line there. And so now we can say the country name, and that's country name, and then this is city. Like that, and then when we refresh that, we've got the country name of the requesting user is Australia, and the city of the requesting user is Balwyn North. So that is working as expected. So now we can stop exiting out here, and we can start plugging some of this information back into our front end and start making it look nice. Let's click F5 here. Okay, the weather at your location, and then we can say maybe like the weather at Balwyn, North Australia is, and then after that we can start putting some more stuff in there. So let's go down to there and start plugging that in. The weather at, and then we can plug in our PHP variables into this. So what was it called? It was called country name and city. So $city, and then we'll do a comma, and then we'll do country name is oh, that did it here. Whoops, that's not right. Let's put that down a little bit further. Let's put that down here where this title is here. Put a space there as well. Yeah, I think we'd probably be better off without that colon as well. It's looking a bit weird. Cool. So now what we need to do is we need to plug into the weather API and actually figure out what the weather is like today, wherever we're coming from. So let's just take what we've got here, because this is probably going to be pretty close to what we need. Put it inside this weather API one. So the weather API is a little bit different. The weather API is this one here. So that's the API, that's the endpoint here. Let's just take that here. Put that there. And now what we need to put after that is the access key. So, not the IP address. That's like that. And then after that, it's query equals. Okay, so we'll put add query equals, and then we'll put city name there, let's say. So we need to pass something into here which is called city name, and then we'll be able to get all the information about that. So now that we have our city name here, we can actually query this API. Actually, let's be consistent and not call that a city name, we'll just call that a city. Okay. And then we can say $weather API object equals query weather API city. So now we'll get rid of this output there, see what we've got here. Yep, and so now, underneath here, we can say the weather API gave us, and I'll put a new line there, and let's echo out what we've got here. So we've got weather API object, and we'll do another break line there as well. Just keep everything neat and tidy for now. So what have we got? Didn't give us anything. Let's see here. We've probably done something wrong here. Weather object API, query API city. City. So let's actually have a look at what we got here. API request is, add that there. Put a return line there. I think we got this API key wrong. I think that's what it was. It's our API key, that is our API key, not this. So let's put that in there instead and see how we go there. So what's wrong with that? Let's move this out a little bit and we can have a look at what's going on here. Access key is your access key and query equals New York. Well, let's just change that to Los Angeles. Hold on, I'm going to get rid of that. Change that to Los Angeles. So maybe this Baldwin North thing is not what we want. Maybe we want just Victoria. Let's see here. Maybe we can use something else. I as our location for our API. So we have, let's see here, we've got Baldwin North, we've got Australia. Maybe I can just put, so that worked with Los Angeles. Like that. Yeah, that's fine. So what about Melbourne? Like that. Okay. What about Victoria? Oops. That's not the right Victoria. So I wonder why that didn't work. Baldwin North. Baldwin North. Let's go back to our weather API here for a moment. What have I done wrong here? Access key equals that, and query equals Baldwin North. Oops. Query weather API. Okay, so what do we get for city? Let's put some breaks in there so that we can have a good look at it. What did we get for city? Baldwin North. So I guess maybe we just have to URL encode this, because we have a space there, and that might be confusing it. If we do that, what do we get then? Okay. So it's giving me an incorrect location. Apparently Baldwin North resolves to somewhere in the United Kingdom. So I'm wondering if we can give it some, we can give it a longitude and latitude, and then it won't get so confused. So let's open this up a little bit. Let's go to the documentation. Oh, we're already there. Okay. So can we do this with longitude? Okay, so in this query, maybe we can add something here. Oops, in the query. Yeah, so what can we do for query? Here we go. We can do longitude and latitude here. So let's use longitude and latitude instead, because I think for some different locations, you know, they're going to get confused, possibly like they did for me. But that's okay. We can still use the first API to get reasonably accurate coordinates. So that should be just fine. So let's come back to our template, not that one, this one here. We've got a longitude here, and we've got a latitude here. So let's just, maybe that's probably too much, but let's just see how we go with that. So with our weather API, let's get long and lat. So when we do our IP API, let's do $long equals this. Okay, so we've got our API object here. Got our API, and we've just got a latitude and we've got a longitude. Okay, that's good. So we'll just take latitude, and we'll take, sorry, that's longitude. Longitude. And then we've also got a latitude. Latitude equals latitude. So we can say lat long equals like this. Put a comma there. And we can put a longitude there. Let's see what happens there. Probably not done something quite right. Yeah, we need a dot there as well, and that should be fine. So we got our latitude, but we didn't get our longitude correctly. So let's see here, API object, longitude, latitude, longitude. Longitude. So we didn't call it longitude, we called it long. Okay, cool. So now we've got those coordinates. Let's go back to the weather stack API again and see how we can plug those in. So we just need to plug them in like that, no brackets or anything like that. Okay, cool. We do still need a comma. So let's plug them in just like that. And then let's see what comes out the other side. That's not the right one. There we go. Please specify a valid location identifier using the query parameter. Interesting. So what do we pass here? So the API request isn't correct, is it? Okay, there we go. So that's actually still $city. Like that. Alright, cool. Finally, we've got something we can work with. Okay, so we have this information now. We have a couple of things. We have, let's see what we've got here. We've got observation time, we've got the temperature, we've got an icon which will show visually what the weather is like, and we have a weather description. We'll definitely be using that. Wind speed, wind degree, not sure exactly what that means. A pressure, chance of precipitation, humidity, cloud cover, and the temperature it feels like. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So let's put a table in here now and then put some of this information in here and make it look nice and pretty. So we can do that with Bootstrap. Bootstrap has really nice tables. So let's just copy paste one of those in there and start plugging things into it. So we'll use, let's see here, we'll use, that looks okay. Yeah, that looks better. Maybe we can, yeah, striped table. That's what we'll use. So paste that into the, we don't need this one anymore. Put that table in there as well. Now let's have a look at how that's looking. All right. So just make sure, yeah, that looks okay. You can see what I'm doing here. So let's move this over here. Let's have a look here at what are the different things that we want to have a look at. So we definitely want the temperature. That'll be the first one. Temperature, is that how you spell it? Something like that. Temperature. Description. We want... Actually, let's start with description. And then we'll do temperature. Temperature. And then we'll do feels like. And then we'll do... What else can we do? Wind speed. And we can do humidity and chance of rain. Humidity. And chance of rain. Okay, so we just need one row to display this information. And we need to capture all of these different pieces of information from our object, from our JSON object that we got from our API. And then after that, we can plug it in and we'll be pretty much done. Maybe we'll make it a little bit prettier, but apart from that, we'll be pretty much done. So let's open this one now. Let's refresh this. So we have... let's see here. This is a little bit more nested, this JSON here. So we have the first layer, which is request. And then we have our second layer here. Yep. So we don't need any of those. And then we have the current, I guess, findings of what we got. Yeah, so we need to do that. So let's then get our weather API object. So we're echoing out there, and let's echo the 0th part of that array. Nope, that's not right. Because it's an object now, it's not an array. So we should be able to get current, I think, like that. Nope. Let's see what we've got here. Have we even JSON decoded that yet? Ah, okay. So let's JSON decode that. JSON decode. Cool, and now it's an object. So now we can do current like that, I think. Where am I echoing this wrong? Well, let's var dump that instead, because we can't echo something that isn't a string per se. So we'll just have a look at that on a variable level. Cool. So now we've got that. We can get the temperature. Yeah, I mean, let's get the time as well. Let's get the time. So, okay, so we can say weather time equals like that, and then what was it? It was observation time. Now let's just make sure that worked correctly. So let's echo that out. So the observation time was weather time. Cool, yeah, so that worked. So we've got weather time. Also another thing that we want. I mean, we could probably use this nice icon as well and put a nice picture on the screen as well. Let's see what that comes up with. Yeah, a nice little cloudy icon. I quite like that. I quite like that. So maybe we'll use that as well. So we can say weather image source equals this thing. But the difference is it's called, hold on a minute. Oh, it's just 0. Okay, well, we'll see how that works. We'll see if that works. Can we access it like that? So then we'll say the weather image source is. Oops, and then we'll echo that out and see if that works. No, that didn't work. So we have observation time, temperature, weather code. Surely I can't do it like that. Nope, definitely can't do that. So how would I access that one? Observation time, temperature, weather code. Maybe if I echo it as JSON, it might give me a little bit of a better idea of how I can get it exactly. Yeah, it's called weather icons. Like that. Line 80. And then let's JSON encode that again. And see what that's trying to print out. That isn't quite a string yet. It might be. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So it's actually weather icons 0, like that. And then we can get rid of that. Because the weather icons is an array, it looks like. It's an array of different icons that can be used to represent the weather of the day. Cool, yeah, so we've got that image source now. Right. Okay, great. So, cool. So now that we've got that one, what's the next thing we can do? We can do weather description. Do we get the feels like? Yeah, cool. So let's do weather description next. Let's get this one. Is it description or descriptions? It's descriptions apparently. Okay. So let's start having a look at this information as we're getting it. Okay, so we've got the image source, the observation time. That's those two things. Let's put that one up one. And then we can do the weather description next. So I guess the weather descriptions, yeah, that's going to be an array as well, because that is going to be the same as the weather icons. Okay, so what have we got here? Okay, so that's all coming up, so let's start plugging that one in. So actually, let's get the temperature. We need the temperature, and we need the feels like. Okay. Okay, so weather temperature is equal to that. Actually, let's get that one. Put that temperature one in. Where has that gone? Temperature. So what else have we got? We've got temperature, and we need the feels like. It just feels like. Let's make sure about that one. Feels like, yep. So we've got the temperature, the feels like. We need wind speed as well. Wind underscore speed. Okay, cool. Wind speed. Wind speed. We've got humidity as well. Yep. Okay. there. Humidity. And shall we do the chance of rain as well? Actually, I don't think that's the chance of rain. I think that is how much rain there was. So maybe we shouldn't use that one. If we got something else, maybe. Let's see. Wind speed, wind degree, wind direction. Yeah, let's do UV index. Why not? UV index. So that's instead of humidity. No, it isn't. UV index. Let's do that one. What was that called? UV underscore index. All right. So instead of echoing those out, let's just start plugging them right into our table. So let's just put this down there just so that we can have a look at it at the same time. Cool. Right. So we've got the weather description, that's the first thing. So let's PHP echo that one out first. Okay. And the next one is temperature. The next one is feels like. The next one is wind speed. The next one is humidity. And after that we have UV index. Yep. UV index. All right, cool. So how is that looking now? Cool, so now we can say Celsius. We can put Celsius there as well. Celsius. And then we can put kilometers per hour there. And after humidity, we'll put percent. And what is UV index measured in? It's just number, I think. UV index units. Okay, so nothing particular. Okay, so now we can get rid of all that stuff. So now let's just work on making this a little bit prettier, and then we're about done, I would say. We need to put in that little image as well, and probably we need to put in a little flag just to show where we're that we know where our user's coming from when we're showing the weather from where they're from. But then after that, it seems like we're about done. So let's make that the weather at your location button. Let's make that link just back to the same website again. But you can make that link to whatever you want. So now that just simply reloads the page. And let's change this title as well. Put that description in there again, and then we'll put the image in there after that. Was it weather description? What was it? Weather descriptions. Weather descriptions. Okay, and now what we need to do is we need to do an img tag, and we need to say source equals PHP echo weather, what was it? Weather image source. And I have a feeling that that's going to be really big, but we can always just change that as soon as we figure that one out. It's actually pretty small. Is that an SVG? If it's an SVG, we can just make it however size we want. No, sadly not, but that's okay. Maybe we can put a little bit of space in between those two things there. If we put, let's say, class equals my, so that's a vertical margin, a margin on the y-axis. We can have my3, which is somewhere in the middle. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with 5 being the biggest, 1 being the smallest. And then let's get rid of all this text up here as well. Get rid of all of this. Get rid of all of this. Oh, there's the time thing as well. Yeah, okay. So we can say we can get rid of this stuff and put that there instead. So let's see here. We've got about services contact. We can get rid of all this and this as well. And then we can say IP address, PHP echo user IP. Was it user IP? Maybe we'll see in a second. Oh, let's just put let's put that in a paragraph tag, and we'll say class equals text white, and then it'll show up a bit nicer. Okay. That's got a margin on the bottom from being a paragraph tag, so let's just change that to an anchor tag. We'll get rid of that margin there. Much better, much better. And now we have this query API output. So let's just echo that really quick so that we can get the flag thing that we were using before. The flag of the user. That's part of the API response. We get a little flag image. So let's echo the JSON encode of that and see about getting that flag thing. So where was it? It was an SVG. Here we go. This flag here. So where are we right now? So we don't have to JSON encode that because it's already JSON encoded. That's why it's looking all crazy. And then we can print that out again. Right. So now, here we go. So I think I can just go straight into the country flag from here. Actually, no, we can't. We have to go to location first. Okay. And what was it? Location flag? Is that what it was? Country flag. Country flag, like that. Nope, that's not right. Actually, we need a JSON decode there first. JSON decode, like that. And then we should be able to get it. Let's refresh that page. Here we go, that's the flag. Okay, cool. So we can say the flag source equals that. And in fact, we've already JSON decoded that output, so we don't need to do it again, and we can just put that there instead. Okay, cool. And then in here, we can put that flag there. And I'll give that a class of MR3, so it can have a margin 3 on the right, so that it's not colliding with that title there. So now we can say PHP echo dollar, what's the flag? Is it just flag source? I can't remember. You know, I can never remember what I call my variable names even like 5 seconds after I name them. So there we go. That's a little bit big. So how about we change the width of that to 32 pixels. That might look better. That's not quite it. Get rid of that one. That's a little bit small. How about we try 64? Not too bad, not too bad. So we'll change this IP address thing to say your IP address. Cool. Excellent. And you know what we'll do just to finish this is I'm going to make this link to a Google Maps of the user's coordinates. Maybe we'll do that, or maybe just their city. How about we just do that? So get rid of that. And so now we have Baldwin North. So let's bring up Google Maps, embed, and we need an API key for that. Let's see here. So let's see. There's href there. Yeah, let's just try that. How about that? So we'll take that. And we'll do, where was it? PHP echo city. Okay, put that there. Put this on the other side of that. And then we'll get rid of that. And then let's reformat this a little bit so we can see what we're doing. So we have this anchor tag here. And what we can do is we can simply put the city name here. And then when we refresh that, we can click this and we can go straight to there with Google Maps. Yep, and that's reasonably close to where I live, so that's looking pretty cool. But actually what we'll do with that is we will say after this target equals blank, and then that will open up in another page. So now when we click this, yeah, it opens up in another page. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. We get automatically the user's IP, and then we figure out what the weather is like where they're from, and then we're also providing this nice little Google Maps link to their geolocation. So I think that's pretty good for a resume project. I think that's going to impress quite a few web development employers. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, and if you are going to use it, please consider checking out my Buy Me a Coffee page. It really helps me out, and I really get a kick out of all the comments that you guys put on there. So again, thank you very much for watching. Good luck with implementing it, and good luck with getting the software job that you deserve, and I'll see you in the next one. So make sure you subscribe as well, and there you go. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.